Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tenji, and I am back as usual with my summary of today's rally. As you are aware, today we had two major rallies that took place, one in Asoka and the other one in Nakonde district. But today I will start by talking about the Nakonde rally, and then we'll do another video where we are going to talk about the rally in Asoka. Today was an amazing day. Today was a powerful day, and I can assure you, oh my God, I don't even know what the team is going through. It was it was something else today. I can imagine the traveling between the two districts, coming from Isoka, going to Nakonde, carrying out two major rallies. That wasn't easy at all. But guess what? The team did it. The team managed to deliver. As usual, as expected, I give you 10 out of 10, leaving nothing behind. You guys did a great job. The NRPUP organizers, I salute you. You did an amazing job. Everything was on point, despite doing everything under a lot of pressure. It's not easy traveling on the road and carrying out major rallies such as those, bringing all those big crowds together. You did an amazing job. A big up to the whole organizing team, and I pray that God should continue giving you the energy, the wisdom, and the knowledge. Yeah, he that has started a good thing will make sure that he goes all the way with you until you accomplish that which the Lord wants you to do. Without taking much of your time, we're just going to dive into our analysis and summary of the Nakonde rally. So where is Nakonde situated? So Nakonde is situated in the heart of Muchinga, a province. It is situated directly on an international border with Tanzania, between the town of Tunduma and Nakonde. So Tunduma is on the Tanzanian side and Nakonde is on the Zambian side. And right in between, they have the border. If you've been to the Tanzanian-Zambian border, sometimes you wouldn't even know which side you're on. Like the division is so, it's so obvious. You can't even tell, where is where. You'd find people there speaking both languages. Yeah, you'd find on the Zambian side there's people speaking Swahili and Bemba. On the Tanzanian side, people are speaking Bemba and Swahili. That border is just amazing. There's just a mixture of the Zambians and Tanzanians. They live like one big family. So this is a one-stop border post, and it also serves as the Tazara main railway station. If you guys know about the Tazara train, Nakonde is one of the major stops for the Tazara railway line. So this tells you a lot about this district. This district actually brings in rather a lot of revenue into the country. So it has one of the major borders in the country, and also it's a business town. So let us dive into our presentation and hear what our dear beloved President Brian Mundubile had to say or promise the people of Nakonde if he is voted in as president for the Zambian elections that will be held, for the Zambian presidential general elections that will be held this year on the 13th of August 2026. Let us do this. So the team arrived in Nakonde. Oh my God. Oh my God. I was there watching and I was telling myself, I was like, how I wish I was part of this motorcade. There was celebration everywhere. They had a stretch, I think it was over 10 kilometers. Like people stood on both sides of the road. There was chanting everywhere. People making the sign, the party sign, like the light is shining and stuff. There were chants, children, women, men, calling him all sorts of names, like praise names and the like. Our president has come, the chosen one. It was so beautiful just to watch that. How I wish I was part of the team and just driving down, with the driving down with the motorcade that escorted our dear beloved incoming president, Brian Mundubile, and the whole team. Yeah, you guys delivered. That was phantasmagorious, if there's any word like that in English. The four cousins and Blaze, you guys did a great job. You set up the momentum of the stage. You know, you got everybody excited. You gave them the energy that they needed. Even as the president came, you know, on the floor, everything was set up. The mood was all set up. If you noticed, the whole rally in Nakonde felt a bit rushed. You could tell from the speakers, they were saying due to, not having enough time, we're going to quickly go through, our program. But this is the unique part about the whole team. If you look at how they carried out the rallies in other cities where they had enough time, they'll do the whole program. Yeah. But today, they looked like they were a bit pressured with time, but nevertheless, they still delivered. So it shows you that they have a strategy. If time is not enough, they're able to compress their program, to fit the time that they've been given. They do not want to break the laws. They do not want to bring any confusion. If they've been given an hour, let it be an hour, and they will do whatever it is that they have to do within that hour. At the end of the day, the team was able to deliver the message. So we had Makebi Zulu, who came on stage, and he opened, the stage before he called in the incoming president. He was able to interact and, connect with the audience. Nakonda audience was slightly different from the audiences like in other places. There was a lot of noise that was coming from the background, but however, if you listen carefully to the noise, it was people saying all sorts of things, like passing on the message. It was beautiful. It was organized noise, so to say. I heard somebody in the background shouting and screaming to say, we need roads, we want roads. Somebody was shouting, we want water, even before he could even start to say anything. So when Makebi Zulu walked in, he talked about Nakonde being like at the border post, and that it was one of the towns that brings in revenue. And he also, talked about the projects of the water project in Nakonde. He expressed to the people that when they are brought into government, that is one of the first things that they're going to deal with, because he feels that water is something that it's not negotiable at all. People deserve and need safe drinking water. Yeah. And then after that, Makebi also said something about the farmers as usual. Remember, the NRPUP party is promising farmers that when they are elected into power, they will return the promise that was started by PF to distribute 8 bags of fertilizer as well as seed to its farmers. So Makebi touched on that a little bit, and before he could go on, he handed over the mic to the incoming president, Brian Mundubile, and he took over and sold the manifesto. So for Brian Mundubile, the first thing that he spoke about, he made a summary of what he was going to talk about. He told the people that he had 6 things that he thought were very important for Nakonde. Remember, from the very beginning, I told you that this team is not just talking about the same thing everywhere they go, but they're sitting down and looking at the actual problems that particular district is going through, and those are the problems that they're putting down and saying, when we are elected into power, we are going to make sure that you have A, B, C, and D. If water is a problem, water will no longer be a problem. We will make sure that we bring up a water project in your communities. Yeah. So he reminded the people that the main responsibility of the government is for the government to help the people. And if the government is not helping the people, he said, Kuya bebele. Kuya bebele means it is time to go. Yeah. So if the government of the day has failed, it is Kuya bebele. It is time for the new government to come in and be able to help the people of this nation. He also acknowledged the water project program that started and was not finished. He said once they're elected into power, they will make sure that this water project continues and that everybody else will have the opportunity to have clean drinking water. He talked about the roads. He said once they're elected into power, they'll make sure that the main roads and the smaller roads connecting into other townships will be worked on. He talked about IT cars. Now, I'm going to spend a bit of time to explain this. So, our nearest port in Zambia is in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam. So if we have to order anything that is coming through the port, it comes through the Tanzanian border from Dar es Salaam. So the Zambian government and the Tanzanian government came up with a memorandum of understanding where they said that if Zambia imports cars, yeah, from say Japan or wherever, and they come through the Dar es Salaam port, they should allow the Tanzanian drivers to bring those cars or goods or whatever all the way up to the border and do not cross and go over to the Zambian border to any other town where they're supposed to deliver those things. Why did they come up with this memorandum of understanding? In order to allow also Zambian drivers be able to benefit. So let's say, for instance, the distance between Dar es Salaam and Tunduma is it's over 12 hours drive, I think 13 hours drive. So if they are going to bring the goods all the way from Dar es Salaam to Tunduma border, it means they will have the opportunity to travel for 12 hours. Of course, that should be enough income for the drivers on the Tanzanian side. And then once the goods or the vehicles arrive at the Tunduma border, the Zambian drivers will be able to drive those cars or take those goods all the way to Lusaka, which is another 12-13 hour drive from the border. I think even more than that. I can't remember how many hours it is between Lusaka and Nakonde, but I think it's like a whole day travel or something, and plus a few hours on top. So there was that memorandum of understanding that came up, and unfortunately it has not been followed. You'd find that Tanzanian drivers are going all the way up to the other side and taking the vehicles and the goods all the way up to the Zambian side, and there is nobody to actually control this. So our dear president said that once he comes back into power, he will make sure that this memorandum of understanding is renewed and it is followed. Yeah. He also talked about something very important, which is the airport. He said that Nakonde, being one of the major, business places in Zambia, it is just essential that this place should have an airport. Yeah, so that businesses should be able to be carried out so well without any hiccups. If business people need to travel, instead of going all those many hours on the road, they could actually utilize the air transport, which is booking flights from Nakonde to Lusaka. I think that would be brilliant. So he's promised them an airport. He spoke to the farmers also, and he spoke also about the mines. Actually, the issue of the mines is something that came from the audience. I think somebody shouted and said, how about the mines in Nakonde? And he did promise them to say once they're elected into power, they'll also make sure that the mining activities in Nakonde are practiced safely, and also that they will look into issues of environmental management and be able to assist the youths acquire licenses for mining. And he also spoke about giving them loans to be able to purchase machinery that can be used for extracting minerals from the ground. He also talked about something to do with Hondas. So between in Nakonde, one of the most common means of transport that is used are motorbikes. And he also explained to them to say he understands how challenging it has been for young people, to be able to run the motorbike business. Now they're unable to buy motorbikes due to the duty fees being very high. And he promises that once he's elected into power, he will make sure that the duty around the Hondas is reduced in order to allow people be able to venture into this business. Lastly, but not the least, he also talked about the social cash transfer as well as free education, that they will continue with the free education program just like it is, but also he promised that they are going to deliver quality education to children in Nakonde district. He spoke about the cash transfer as well, that every person that is eligible will be able to receive the social cash transfers. Thank you so much for listening, and we are now going to look at a bit of highlights at the rally. So some of the highlights that I picked up, yeah, and today, interestingly, I was able to even pick some of the comments, that were were beaming live view, and somebody just posted and said, "Oh my God, this is the chosen man, chosen by God." Yeah, look at how much love is coming from Nakonde. Those people posting and flashing, all the hearts and love on the screen. Something also interesting was that young man, the little boy. If you notice from the beginning of the rally, that little boy was all the way at the back. But somehow he managed to find his way to the front, and people were lifting him and passing him over until he got to the front. The little boy had a picture, a portrait, yeah, of Brian Mundubile. Oh my God, I looked at it and I was like, some children are just gifted. He already knows his place. And he was fished out from the crowd to say, where's that young boy that has been trying to come to the front? It was very obvious that he was trying to come to the front, because we could see like people carrying him and passing him over. The others would carry him and pass him over until he found his way to the front. So he was called to the front, and he was able to hand over his portrait to Brian Mundubile and the team. And this was just so beautiful, just to see the rapport that he had with this young boy. It just tells you what sort of a man he is. He's a father, he is a father. You could tell how he was able to relate to this young boy. A gentleman called Kelvin Musonda made a post, and in his post he said, "Power indeed is a big obsession. The man spent 5 years destroying the opposition, just for the opposition to mobilize in 2 months, 4 weeks." I found this very, very interesting. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kelvin, for making that comment. Something else also that I noted that was a highlight was how people in the audience started shouting, Edgar Lungu, Edgar Lungu. Our hearts are sore for Edgar Lungu. Our hearts are broken for Edgar Lungu and stuff. That was really sad, but I could pick it, from the background, that people wanted to hear something about Edgar Chagwa Lungu. As usual, I will always say, may his beautiful soul continue to rest in peace, and we pray by God Almighty that everything else will work as planned, and that some of his dreams of seeing Zambia become a better place to live in will be fulfilled. Thank you so much for listening to me, and we'll be back again for another review of Isoka. Thank you, and God bless you.